pieces on the board stood motionless, frozen in their places, waiting for minute after minute as the doctor frowned down at them, deciding which one to move. At last he selected a white pawn, held it hovering over the board for a moment, then set it down with a decisive click. Having done so, he rose from the chair in which he was sitting, went to the other side of the table, and sat down in the empty chair that had been facing him. Then he rested one elbow on the edge of the table, cupped his chin in his hand, and studied the relative positions of the black pieces to the white. He was just about to make his next move, when someone reached down over his shoulder, picked up a black knight, and with it took the pawn he had just moved.
Ah, you found me again.
Dasterian moved past him to sit in the chair behind the white pieces, elegantly disposing the folds of her skirt around her.
Well, I tried the TARDIS first, of course, but, quibbles aside, where else would I find you, this you, but in the keep of Calabrian on Osobbria, the planet of war players? A whole world dedicated to the strategic game, variations of which are played throughout the galaxy, known on Earth as chess.
The doctor smiled as he stood, doffed his hat, and resumed his seat.
There's a tournament for off-worlders tomorrow. I'm just doing a little practice, keeping my hand in. I've played here a number of times. I've never been beaten yet.
Dasterian acknowledged this with a nod, then turned to survey the great hall in which they sat, its bare walls constructed of huge rough squares of mauve stone, the floor covered with pale green sand.
Is Ace not with you?
Oh, she made friends with a group of young Ossobrians,
said the doctor, with an airy wave of his hand.
She's off somewhere with them, up to something, no doubt. I just hope she doesn't decide to blow anything up while she's doing it. I don't want to be thrown out of the tournament before it's even started.
He returned his attention to the board, and there was silence for a few moments. Dasterian too surveyed the board. Then she put her head to one side and regarded the doctor thoughtfully.
You know, for someone who has such disdain for the military, it might seem rather contradictory that you have such a fascination for what is essentially a game of war.
There are many types of war, many types of foe, and many ways of combating them, better than the bombs and bullets which are the first resort of the stupid. There's no such thing as a dangerous weapon. It's minds that are dangerous, minds and mindsets, minds where aggression and evil come from. That's why strategy is so important. If you can outthink an opponent, you've already won. And I'm very good at that.
Dasterian leaned back in her chair and studied him.
You know, I'm surprised you've never taken up croquet, Doctor. The full, proper form of the game, I mean. I would have thought its similarities to chess would have greatly attracted you. Having a strategy in place to enable overall success. Planning every move several strokes in advance, so that everything is in the predetermined place to enable you to score every point throughout the game. Manipulating the position, not only of your own side of the game, but also that of your opponent. Sometimes cunningly using the hoops or the peg to obscure the ball that they need to hit so that they can't see it to hit it from the position into which you've put them. Making them play the shot you want them to play, not the one they would have wanted to play.
She considered the board between them, then moved one of the white bishops.
Chess involves less walking,
said the doctor flippantly.
I prefer talking to walking. The cerebral approach, and a chessboard is more portable than a croquet lawn.
His eyes scanned the tableau of black and white squares.
Of course, there are those who say croquet's a vicious game,
Dasterian suggested blandly, watching him pick up a knight and position it to threaten the bishop.
Do you agree?
Vicious. Synonymous with cruelty, brutality, violence, sadism. From them can flower evil. Evil and everything that flows from it. Malevolence and malice. Not Wonderland and Alice. It's not such a great step from vicious to evil.
True enough. Though we were talking of croquet, of course. And croquet is no more vicious than chess. No game is vicious of itself, is it, Doctor? It's only the people who play it who can make it so. So, if someone tells you croquet is a vicious game, the proper response should be, only if you are, wouldn't you say?
In my experience, there are plenty of vicious people in the universe.
The doctor observed, his eyes on the board.
Individuals and races, in the past and in the future. Evils both new and ancient always abound.
Ah, yes. Ancient evils.
Dasterium smiled briefly. She leaned forward and moved the imperiled bishop to a different square.
Of course, whether an evil is ancient or not depends on when you encounter it. Sometimes its origins lie in the future, not the past. And sometimes it can be encountered in places other than those that are obvious. One has to know where to look and when to look in order to know what to expect.
The doctor looked at her through slightly narrowed eyes.
If I didn't know you better, I'd be tempted to think you were getting close to telling me something important, hinting that there's an evil somewhere I should be looking at. Should I be doing it now, I wonder? And where should I be looking?
You of all people should appreciate the importance of seeing the bigger picture, Doctor. Sometimes that can only be done by taking the necessary amount of time. Like a jigsaw which you haven't pieced together yet into a coherent whole. It takes time to seek out and identify the pieces that you need to complete the picture. Such a process is still taking place. You can regard this as a progress report, if you like.
But is the progress mine or yours?
The doctor asked shrewdly. He picked up one of his rooks, frowned for a moment, then put it onto its new square.
Prepare to be checkmated.
I beg to differ.
Dasterium lifted the white queen and placed it with a firm click into its new location. She leaned back to observe the doctor's reaction as he realised that his black king was not in check, but now he couldn't move it without putting it into check. And, moreover, that the final outcome could directly be traced back to the black knight she had moved when she very first appeared, before taking the other side of the board and playing the white pieces thereafter. How very cleverly she had managed to misdirect him. His eyes scanned the board, confirming the situation, then lifted to meet hers, his face unreadable.
I see. Stalemate. Neither of us wins, and neither of us loses.
Dasterium inclined her head in acknowledgement.
Just so.
I'm impressed. Not many people can beat me at chess.
But I haven't beaten you, Doctor. The White Queen has merely achieved a draw against the Black King. On this occasion, you remain undefeated.
The doctor dropped his eyes to the board again, studying the pattern in which the pieces had come to rest. When he raised them again, the chair opposite him was empty.
I'm looking forward to the rematch,
he said, as if its erstwhile occupant was still there.
Whenever that may be. Meanwhile, the next move is obviously yours. Will it be a decisive one, I wonder? Time will tell. But when are you going to?